Let's face it, the entire first half of 2022 has been brutal for crypto. Of course, that just means more suffering for businesses sprung up around digital currencies. After June's terrible halt on withdrawals where Bitcoin plunged to an 18-month low and we witnessed investors dumping their withholdings, another update arrived last week that shook up the internet. Coinbase had paused transactions in the US. But what's next after this major outage? Let's find out. First off, Coinbase paused transactions in the US for hours to address. Last week, Coinbase sent its users into a frenzy. Clearly, we didn't see the news coming in the first place, so the reactions that followed were super surprising. Issues began at roughly 7 a.m. Eastern, and soon after, the customers bombarded social media with their frustrating posts. Later, we saw via a tweet that the business claimed that it was unable to accept payments or withdraw money from US bank accounts. And just as you'd expect, the inconvenience let off real steam among users. One user posted, "Also unable to pay bills with our Coinbase cards. When will this be resolved?" While another went on to state that it was high time to switch to another platform now. Well, we can't blame them for boiling up. After all, it's their hard-earned money that's at stake. Later on Sunday, the Coinbase support team posted, "Our team is aware of this issue and is working on getting everything back to normal as soon as possible. You may use a debit card or PayPal account to make direct buys on your account should you wish," it posted late on Sunday. But guess what? Even after the tweet, things didn't seem to settle up much. They even assured us that all the funds were in safe hands and that we needn't worry. That said, the company even promised that after carefully examining the problem, it would return with a solution to remove the obstacles. But when it's about money, there's little room for inconvenience, right? Yet they didn't respond for another 5 hours after the first post. Up next, here's how Coinbase support fixed the issue. Finally, after keeping the users in dark for 5 hours, the corporation later declared that this issue has been rectified. Yep, it took them this long to fix the ACH withdrawal, deposit, and purchase issues. Pretty understandable. But what about those who needed to make urgent transactions? Let's admit it, it was full-fledged chaos. Wait, and more wait. Obviously, that's a bit too much to handle, and especially when it's our finances. But then at last, as the crypto exchange's system status page updated us that the incident has been resolved as of Sunday, October 2nd at 12:41 p.m. New York time, 4:41 UTC, referring to the previous post they made hours ago. There's no hint of doubt that the issue was massive for some, but Coinbase support didn't fix it until about 12:40 p.m. Eastern Time. They also apologized for the inconvenience, but again, a mere apology won't compensate for this big of a problem. What it looks like is a risk mitigation strategy, ACH transactions not being processed. Whatever the case is, Coinbase Incorporated told us it's a technical difficulty hindering the transaction of funds from the U.S. bank. When heading over to Twitter, though, things didn't sort out fast there. Users still flooded into the comments section where most of them demanded back their locked money. Has this happened to any of you? Though soon after, the issue was successfully resolved for these folks just in the nick of time before more criticism poured in. Thankfully, the issue is resolved now. Turns out the ACH transfer issue caused more inconvenience than we anticipated. Coinbase Incorporated believed fixing the issue would do the work, but turns out that wasn't the case. Believe it or not, the entire incident did more harm than we expected. While it was just a couple of hours, the loss it incurred was crazy. Yep, we mean that. Firstly, a Coinbase user tweeted saying he'd wait till night to see if the issue gets resolved, and if not, the only option would be to shift to another platform. Well, that's both alarming and bad for Coinbase, right? Of course, losing their audience is the last thing they want. And not just that, several users had major issues even after things were set right. As the leading crypto exchange platform in the US, the repercussions had to go a long way. While they did fix it, their impression was pretty much ruined for the audience. So what we know here is the problem was temporary, but the effects are still alive. Not to mention, Coinbase isn't the only company that had issues. Remember Solana's network outage? Yep, that's exactly what we're referring to. Well, that's a whole story we still refer to as the major outage of the US banks. Looks like the company follows a whole string of delays, just as with Solana. This weekend's problems in the broader crypto industry weren't limited to that issue. and the website itself says that. The users have seen much worse, a delay as long as up to 6 hours. Frankly, that's quite a lot of time. If we're going back in time, Coinbase users had to cope with delayed transactions with Solana for a few days, following a network failure on September 30th. And much worse was the aftermath. Yeah, that's right. Owing to the transaction failure, Coinbase announced a staggering loss in both revenue and profit for the June quarter, recording a net loss of $1.1 billion, while revenue fell sharply by nearly 60% from the same quarter last year, from $2.033 billion to $803 million. Insane, we know. And it doesn't just end there. The company had to lay off 1,100 employees. Isn't that crazy? If we were to see Solana's network outage, it started 6 hours later on October 1st. Yep, Solana has experienced numerous network outages over the past year, but the recent one resulted in the network's native currency falling 4% against the dollar on the previous day. And if you've been following the news, you know that when the outage occurred, Solana received a lot of criticism from the cryptocurrency world because it was the blockchain's 9th outage since Solana's launch. Just in case you're curious, here's the commonest transaction issue with Coinbase and ways to solve them. Of course, the main problem arises when your transactions fail to get across, and if you urgently need to get it done, your life becomes nothing short of a mess. Well, we've been there and know totally what it feels like. Yep, you're truly stuck when you learn your transactions are pending. If you're new to Coinbase, you need to get a knack for a few things before you're ready to make the first transaction. Almost instantly, incoming transactions appear in your account, the good part, but they are still listed as pending until enough network confirmations have been received. The bad part, but that shouldn't worry you. Relax. Once a transaction's approved, it'll display completed. This means that the funds can now be withdrawn and the transaction cannot be undone. Or let's put it this way, once you're over with the completion phase, you're good to go. Cryptocurrency runs its own nodes that connect with the rest of the network that pretty much sums up Coinbase. That said, they broadcast your transaction, so you've got confirmation when you finally start one. Here's the bummer. For brief intervals, their nodes could become out of sync with the rest of the network. That's exactly what prolongs the pending state of transactions. Again, chill out. The transaction will eventually complete normally after a brief wait, usually under an hour. But don't forget, the transactions that fail to receive network acceptance are never regarded as confirmed. Lastly, this isn't the first time this happened. Coinbase faced similar issues in May. So what we know for sure is the past week's incident wasn't the first time. Relatively similar issues, if not identical, have been around forever. Let's see. If we look back at May this year, Coinbase faced serious issues with money withdrawals. There's no way the users are getting over the trouble it caused them. A nightmare, honestly. Well, no way we can blame them for their aggression. While others were unable to use the app or website, users observed rolling withdrawal delays that left thousands of dollars on the line. Oh well, dude, that tells us why their fierce reactions were totally justified. And if you're wondering what Coinbase did in these tough circumstances, they acknowledged the issue, all to allay anxieties in the wake of a widespread drop in cryptocurrency prices and the massive increase in the urgency of deals and withdrawals. Too bad they had very little choice. The inconveniences don't end here, though. Many users were forced to sell their assets as a result of the price decline. Much worse, they also put numerous firms' underlying financial systems to strain. So what happened the following month was a completely separate story. A Cloudflare outage in June brought down several significant well-known web services, including cryptocurrency exchanges like FTX, Bitfinex, and OKX, increasing concerns about the security of centralized crypto platforms. Well, that's pretty much it for today's video. See you in the next one. Until then, bye. Oh, and don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button if you wish to keep up with drastic news from the future too.